So welcome to this week's edition of the Commercial Real Estate 101 Meetup Group. Excited to see you all today. For those of you guys who are tuning in for the first time, we actually do these meetings every other week where we talk about a variety of different topics pertaining to commercial real estate. And today I have a friend of mine, just an excellent coach and an entrepreneur in his own right, Jason Ballard, really awesome professional. Looking forward to talking a little bit about, crisis management and really more so about how to navigate the current environment that's just a little bit, as we're all aware as commercial real estate professionals, it definitely is a market that is dislocated in a variety of different property types. So looking forward to having a good discussion about how we can navigate these murky waters. So Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, Raphael, thanks, man. Appreciate the opportunity to be on and share some hopefully valuable things, maybe some tools that can help some folks. Things are kind of weird, kind of volatile right now, kind of up in the air, and look forward to the discussion. So great to be with you.
Absolutely, Jason. No, I'm looking forward to this discussion because I think it's going to add a lot of value to people. But one thing we like to do when we first get started is we like to learn about the person who we're actually talking to. So if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit about yourself, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Jason Ballard. I'm a certified master business and executive coach. I have a coaching company called Soar Hire Coaching and Training. We're headquartered out of Louisville, Kentucky. However, we do work with people, businesses of all shapes and sizes all over the world. We've had clients down in South America to Europe to all over the United States, et cetera. So our goal, my purpose and my mission in life now is to help other people be successful, help other people start a business, grow a business, scale a business, or even exit a business. Right there's a whole dynamic of business that surrounds being in business that we work with people on. And so this is kind of my second career. I started out growing up in a family construction company. So we were a very entrepreneurial family and grew up in those kind of grassroots in the trades. I loved it. It saves me a lot of money every time something breaks around my house. I don't have to call everybody all the time to fix it. And then that led into a military career. I was going to go in for a few years and get some education out of it. And that turned into a 20-year career. I was an officer, a senior officer in the U.S. Air Force. And then that turned into a stint after I retired. I did some stuff in the political realm and did some advising and consulting there. And then I was in some other business ventures with some other people. And thank goodness that went well. And then I just got to a point in my life, Raphael, where, I just wanted to really do something every day that was just my heart and soul passion. That was leadership and coaching and mentoring. And I'd been doing that the whole time in my career, leading the 12 different organizations that I had the privilege to lead. And so a little over 5 years ago, we started the Soar Hire coaching and training business. And it's been great. I've been able to really connect with some really, really cool people doing some amazing things out there. So look forward to hopefully sharing some of that here today.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be extremely beneficial. And obviously, given your background in the military and various entrepreneurial ventures, I mean, you have a lot of experience to be able to draw on as you're helping your clients navigate these types of situations. And I know we had talked about it. My dad was in the Air Force for a long time as well, and we kind of chopped it up a little bit about the different bases you were stationed at. I was, we were stationed in Europe for a while too, so it's always kind of good to catch up on that front. But, one thing that, I think the reason why we decided that this would be an appropriate topic to talk about is because of what's going on currently in the economy. So I just kind of want to get your take on, what you think is currently happening. And then maybe as a secondary question, it's more so, how are you helping or talking to your clients about how to navigate this type of environment?
Yeah. It's a very dynamic environment right now. It's just different. I think we're just in a phase of our society as a nation is just a global economy where we're kind of, I kind of liken it to, going through a haunted house. It's dark and you don't know where to go, and you're kind of feeling on the walls of which direction to go, and you're trying to feel your way through it a little bit. It kind of feels that way in many ways in our kind of economy and our state of affairs right now, because you had the global pandemic, which caused a massive amount of change and disruption. Some people were able to weather that, some people weren't, and it caused a lot of change. Whether you wanted to or not, you had to do some level of change in that process, whether it's work from home or other things. It was very disruptive. And I think we're still feeling some of the effects of that and figuring out what the new norm is going to be. And I think that's a big question with business leaders out there today is, what is the new norm going to be for us? Is it going to be work from home, work in the office, a hybrid version of that, or a different version of that? And what's our culture going to be? And how do we minimize this risk and not go through these drastic, disruptions if something happens again? Then you've got, kind of the worldly affairs that are going on, right? You've got tensions in Korea, tensions with China, tensions with Russia and Ukraine, and things like that are just creating unrest, just instability and lack of confidence, right? You've got the stock markets, they've been very volatile, up and down. Right now they seem to be bouncing back a little bit, but it's a big unknown. Like from day to day, you don't know what's going to happen in the stock market. And I was just reading something recently about how people are taking money out of 401ks and trying to find other places, better, more safer places to put that money. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that here in a minute, because I think real estate's certainly an option. Then you've got kind of some weird things going on in politics over the past 5 or so years. Like the political scene has just gotten really hostile and polarized, and man, everybody's super sensitive to everything, and everybody's protesting, and everybody's angry about something, and it's just a really odd time, right? And then in business, people are having a hard time finding people and keeping people, and it's just kind of this time where they just don't know what to think, they don't know what to do. And when are we still in an inflationary period? Are we in a recession? Are we not? Like there's all these unknowns, and it is creating a lot of anxiety and just different things in people right now.
Yeah, for sure. No, I couldn't agree more. And obviously, because the clientele we typically service are, and to give you context on the audience, and we kind of talked about it a little bit offline, is we have a lot of commercial real estate professionals primarily. So we have people who are, either brokers or agents in their career. They may be early on, mid in their career, maybe later in their career. We have a lot of attorneys, a lot of, different commercial real estate professional, construction professionals, investors. And, because of what's happening in the business landscape right now, that same instability and that same, confusion as far as what's going on is transferring over to, the people that we service. And so it's one of those things where, I found it in my business where, you're having different conversations that you were having 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or even before COVID. I mean, you were having a lot different conversations. And so, as far as those types of conversations that you are currently having with your clients, like what are some of the things that you're advising them on? And maybe we can hop in a little bit on the mindset piece, because I feel like that's going to be a big piece of the equation when it comes to how to navigate some of these situations.
Yeah. Sometimes life, as hard as you work, life just deals you the set of cards that they deal you, and you have to figure out how to play your hand to the best of your ability with the cards you're given, right? And so, this has certainly affected the real estate market, residentially and commercially. The interest rate hikes and all that stuff have really caused people to rethink moving and relocating and expanding their business. And that's those rate hikes are significant in the decision-making process, because you end up paying a lot more money for things today than you would have a few years ago, before, when things were at 3% or 4%. Right now they're at 7+. Last time I checked, I don't know what they are today, but they're higher than people want them to be. I know that. And that does cause people to pause. And then you got the, on the commercial real estate side, you got the whole dynamic of, the pandemic effect. Like we haven't fully like healed from that. We haven't recovered from that. Like we still have a lot of empty buildings in all the major cities around the United States that people are just wondering, what are we going to do? And they've cut back and they've decided not to fill those buildings. And now we're like, well, what do we do with this space? What are the, and I think the from a mindset perspective is, if you're in commercial real estate is, man, things used to be really good a few years ago. And now with all these dynamics in play, there's these unknowns. And so what I would invite you to think about, if you haven't already, is what are the opportunities being created here? You can't just go back to the old days, and it may take a while for us to eventually leverage office space and building space the way we used to. It's going to take a few years for some of that to work itself out. But what are the opportunities? What new things are emerging that we need to maybe think differently about how to use space and how to leverage that differently in a different way.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a slight mindset shift, but that's such a profound way to approach the problem, because what worked 3 years ago may not work today. And as part of being if you want to be a professional that lasts in this business, in particular, I'm speaking from the brokerage side, because it is primarily commission business, right? So if you don't execute, you don't eat, right? So it's one of those things where, even if you did have a killer success prior to COVID and even during COVID, I mean, 2020 and 2021 for some investment real estate in particular was probably some of the best years we've seen in decades. So, you're kind of riding a high of experiencing these low interest rate environment. There's a lot of transaction volume, people are doing very well in the environment. And now, we had the Fed has raised the Fed funds rate 11 times in the last, 2 years. And that's caused this, I was reading an article the other day that the transaction volume year over year has dropped almost 70%. So imagine the amount of dislocation that's occurring in the market. Now, I really appreciate the fact that you had said, like, instead of thinking, why isn't this working? Think about what can I do that can work, right? Because there's always opportunity in the marketplace. Maybe the differential between what sellers are willing to pay and what buyers are willing to pay right now is definitely, there's a strong difference, but maybe there's an opportunity to maybe get up to the quote unquote seller's price, but you say, hey, now this is on my terms. So I know we had talked, I was actually on a podcast the other day where we talked about different opportunities from a development standpoint, and say, okay, well, maybe the seller is expecting a very high value for their property, and maybe that's not something normally would be amenable to. But if there's an opportunity for you to potentially put that property under contract and then rezone it to something else, and maybe it takes you a year to do that or 2 years to do that, and if the seller's willing to do that, that's an opportunity right there, because now you've forced appreciation in these types of opportunities. And that's just one example, but that mindset shift is what gets you thinking about ways to navigate this environment. Because again, it's one that we haven't really experienced in a long time. I mean, and for many of the professionals that are probably listening to this, I know myself included, we've never been through a recession. We've never been through a period of dislocation like this. So, it is definitely uncharted waters. So it's always kind of good to hear your take on your thoughts on that.
Well, I think a key question to consider, if you haven't already, is what are the needs of the businesses going forward in the next 24 to 36 months? I think those needs have changed and are continuing to evolve and change. And so what are the immediate needs of business leaders today that clearly want to grow? And there are a lot of businesses out there that are growing, that are investing. There's a lot of positive, regardless of what you see on the news and, some of the doom and the gloom, and the title of today, is crisis management. Like everything's a crisis today, right? Like everybody perceives everything as a crisis. That's how it's labeled in the media. And it really truly is not. Most of the things, there's only a few % of things that actually are in the world that are actually a real crisis. Most of it is not. But people are growing, people are hiring people. The things aren't as bad as what people make them seem, right? And so a key question that I'd challenge you to maybe consider having conversations with some of your prospects and business leader affiliates out there is, what do you need? What needs to happen to allow your business to grow and expand? And how can we help you in that space? Versus just, well, let me look up a listing. We've got 3 buildings for you to look at. And yeah, but that may not solve all their needs, right? So what are some of the needs that are weighing on CEOs right now?
Yeah.
Care and feeding of the employees. Employees are still having major challenges with daycare, major challenges with health, major challenges with balancing, work and life and things like that. Like there are still needs of the employee. And so the employers need to continue to find ways to empower and set up their employees for success because their needs have changed. So when you think about a piece of property, maybe you can redesign it a little bit or remodel it and put maybe a daycare place right there on site. Maybe there's a fitness thing on site. Maybe there's some ways to leverage the space differently that how should we say it, that wraps around the employees and what they need to be successful to achieve the things that the company wants to achieve. So what does the company need, and how can you best serve those needs and think outside the box with your networks and your resources to bring those things together?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, man. Really. I mean, that lends itself to that creative thinking, is that, maybe the deals aren't necessarily coming as easy now, but there are opportunities out there still. And it's good to kind of think about that on a regular basis, to think, okay, what can I do that a little bit differently in this environment that maybe wasn't forced to do in the previous environment. Another thing that's kind of interesting too, is that just because one sector of the commercial real estate landscape is dislocated, I mean, I would contend that, central business district office across the country has been affected greatly. There's still subsects of those property types that may be performing very well. I know, you had mentioned daycare. I mean, there's such a need for daycare right now. We had a building that we're looking that we have I have listed here locally. It's for lease. It's like 8,000 square feet. I had 2 daycares reach out. They said they had their waiting lists are almost a year long. Yeah. So they're trying to fill the need, trying to expand. So those types of verticals are doing extremely well. Grocery stores are doing extremely well. I've got a couple grocery store clients that are just raking in, significant amounts of capital, and they need to grow and expand. Medical office, if there's ways for you to get in those types of verticals, that's always going to be a strong demand. So repurposing a space that maybe was historically utilized as maybe a, general insurance office or whatever else, but it's located and it's very highly visible. Maybe you convert it into some other use. There's different unique opportunities out there if you're willing to think about, okay, what are the needs in the marketplace and what verticals within those marketplaces are performing well?
Yeah.
Because not every business, just because one type of business is maybe not performing great in the environment, there may be other businesses that are expanding rapidly. And maybe that's the type of, what you need to tailor your marketing message to, or maybe that's the type of business owners you need to get in front of, because those are where the opportunities are in the current environment are.
Absolutely. So, things change. It's, in commercial real estate, manufacturing is huge. That's a big target for you guys, right? It's a lot of space, warehousing, logistics, supply, assembly line kind of stuff. Yeah, man, that's a bread and butter for you guys. But, if manufacturing is throttling back based on the conditions of where we are economically, like you said, there's other sectors that are booming. So it goes back to the question of, well, what is the need of the market? what are the demands being placed on the market and how can we meet those needs, right? Cybersecurity, anything technology based is booming right now, right? Logistics booming, healthcare booming, right? Those are just some major industries that are struggling to keep up. They are behind. Like I even think about the construction industry, booming industry, commercial or residential, they're still I'm having some stuff done, on my residence here, right? A kind of a small thing we're doing on the back of our property. And it's a month. I'm having to wait a month on them to get to us because they're so booked. They have so many things going on. I have to wait my turn, right? And so there are a lot of things popping in the market. And so I would recommend to commercial real estate folks that also get out of, maybe if you're used to doing transactional stuff and in the things are hot and busy and it's a transactional thing, is maybe take this extra time to maybe switch into more relationship based. And everybody you talk to in business, oh, we're relationship based. Well, most of them aren't. And I've met many commercial real estate people. Oh yeah, I've got a lot of relationships, I know a lot of people. Yeah, but it's not deeper. It's like, an inch deep and a mile wide, right? And so could be a good opportunity for you to maybe go back to your networks and maybe go back to some people and build some different strategic alliances and partnerships with people in these industries and go deeper and spend some deeper time with them and ask bigger, deeper, harder questions, and then leverage your network that you're building out to add value. Sometimes the value you add to people isn't the fact that you can, prepare paperwork and close on a deal. That's certainly your bread and butter value, but other things you can bring to the table to add value is important during this time too.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's a good practice to have long-term in general, is checking in on your previous clients and seeing how they're doing. And if there's ways that you can even add some value, maybe they're like, oh, do you know this particular professional, and you just so happen to have it in your network, make the introduction, continue to be that top of mind figure, because at a certain point in time, the tide turns, and then you're going to be blowing well out of the situation in a positive light. So that's, I guess, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is regarding market share. Obviously this is a period of time where, maybe the tide is coming out. And again, as we had discussed before, there's plenty of opportunity out there if you're willing to think creatively and search for it. But in an environment where the transaction volume maybe has diminished, we can see that in certain sectors of the market, you've seen a lot of dislocation. What are some of the strategies or ways that you can maybe work towards building a systems to gain market share so that coming out of this situation, you're thriving?
Yeah. Well, one thing to know is, where are you in the market to begin with? Like defining, the future of where you are in the market and how much market share there is to take, and how you can be the big dog in that space. All goes back to, well, where are you today? Your company is where in the market? Are you number one? Are you number 10? Are you number 200? Like, where are you? And so if you don't know the answer to that question, then I would invite you to, connect with some people that can help you assess that and help, do some research and compare, notes, your company versus their company versus another company, and where do you really fit in the market, right? If I were to say, I want to give everybody a free gift of dark colored soda, what would you think of, Raphael?
Coke,
What would that be?
Coca-Cola, probably.
Coke.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, their branding and everything. I mean, they've been obviously the dominant force in that industry for many years.
That's right. And so, question to you in your business, whatever the name of your company is, company X is where. Like, when you think about commercial real estate in your town, where you may reside, company X equals what? I've never heard of you, or yeah, I've heard of you a little bit, or yeah, I might have saw a commercial. Like, what is your brand recognition? Like, how, what is your strategy to penetrate that market and be the market leader? When you think of like injury attorneys, does anyone stand out to you? Raphael, I know you live in Louisville with me. So when you're watching the 6 o'clock news, like, and an injury attorney commercial comes on, which one is it?
The Hammer.
The Hammer or
Yeah.
Morgan and Morgan?
Morgan and Morgan. Yeah. So yeah, I know for those of you guys who don't know, I mean, the Hammer, I know this gentleman who is a big injury attorney locally here. He has these super funny commercials, but he's a very well recognized injury attorney here locally. And then I think Morgan and Morgan's the largest Morgan injury attorney in the country.
They
So
are.
I'm sure they're all over the country.
Yeah, that, and they market that, right?
Mhm.
Size matters. We're the largest injury attorney firm in the United States of America. We've won billions, blah 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 blah, right? And so it's very clear in people's minds, what the best, dark colored soda is. And if you need to wipe your face with a tissue, you're going to use a Kleenex, and the injury attorneys of the world are Morgan and Morgan and such, right? But where's your company? In the realm of commercial real estate, where do you really stack? You might want to, understand that. You might want to have somebody help you assess that. If you don't know of anybody that can do that for you, I know plenty of them. You can reach out to me, after the show, and I can point you in the right direction and help you out with that. But knowing where you are is pretty important, right? It's like, break it down into real simple terms. Where do you rank on Google? If I did a Google search of commercial real estate brokers near me in your town, are you on page 1, page 10, page 5, or are you at the top?
Yep.
Might want to try that tactic and see where you land, because typically if you're number one in your market, you're typically ranking number one on Google searches in your area, right? So figure out where you are. And then the next question I would empower you with is, where do you want to be? And what needs to happen to take you from where you end up, or if you're on page 5 of Google today and you are absolutely determined to be the number one spot on Google at some point in the future, then okay, what needs to happen to make that happen? Like you're not doing all the right things right now to earn that top spot in Google or in the market as a whole. Now you've got some things to sink your teeth into and figure out that strategy. Talk to some experts that can help you there.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I love the fact that you had alluded to, being recognizable in your market. I think that's kind of the reason why, you have a podcast. That's why I know I've had a podcast. I do a lot of YouTube stuff. I do a lot of digital marketing stuff. And as a result of that, over a period of time, I become relatively recognizable in the Louisville market for commercial real estate. And I encourage any professional, regardless of whether the industry, but I'm obviously can speak to the commercial real estate industry, is that putting yourself out there in some medium, whether that's blogging or, if you have, mailers that you send out, or, I'm a big proponent of video, like creating videos, sharing it on these different platforms, and just etching in the mind of your audience, your network, that you yourself are an expert and you know what you're doing and you can service whatever needs your target audience may have. That over time will eventually enable you to achieve that top spot. And obviously, I'm not nowhere near there by any means. And I think part of it is that it just takes time. Like this industry is a long game industry. This is not a get in and make it, you can, I'm not saying you can't, but in reality, those who have been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years are the ones who are really performing at a high level and achieving the lifestyle that they're wanting and seeking. But that takes time. So if you're willing to commit to doubling down on building that brand of yourself and being recognizable in your local market for XYZ, whatever you want that to be, whether that's more of a generalist as far as commercial real estate, or maybe you're a retail professional, investment professional, industrial professional, you name it, that's a good strategy to take on and commit to over a period of time.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to follow that with a couple things. The number one thing that challenges any company today, take a guess at what that may be.
Well, I would imagine employees are probably up there, but also probably just keeping front of mind in front of their clients.
It's more basic than that. Yes, you are right. Those are certainly factors, but there's one simple thing.
Keeping expenses below income, I guess. That's what I mean. If you're talking about basic, I don't know. That's what I would guess.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly a factor too, but it's more basic than that. There's one thing that challenges businesses more than anything universally, and that is trust. People earning people's trust. And here's why. On any given day, each individual that walks the face of the planet is exposed to 5,000 to 10,000 impressions of something. It's all around us. It's on billboards. It's on social media ads. It's on, social media everywhere. Ads, posts. It's on TV. It's on the radio. I mean, heck, you can't even drive your vehicle around if you got a newer vehicle that's got a big screen, touch screen thing in your vehicle. There's advertisements going across that, all day. Raphael, you just mentioned one, the Hammer. Like, his law firm, because I live in his local market, is he pays to have his name across my screen, and I can't change it. I can't delete it off of there, right? It's burned into my screen. You can't get away from it, right? And so how many people get hit up on LinkedIn every day, from people from all over the world that claim to 20x their business and do all this marketing stuff? Like, people get hit up all the time from people that could be scammers, could be legitimate people, it's all over. We're getting hit from email, LinkedIn, messaging, text, spam calls, to whatever. I mean, people are getting pounded to death, and they become kind of sensitive to that, right? And so you don't know who to trust. You see all this, you see 5,000, 10,000 things around you all day, and you're inundated with all this stuff that's coming at you from every different direction. You don't know who to trust. You don't know what's legitimate anymore. It's really, really hard to be a really good, legitimate company and stand out from the fray of the madness that's just puking out every day all over the place, right? It's hard to stand out in all of that stuff. And so trust becomes the biggest issue. How do I know you're legitimate? How do I know you're not some wannabe company that's claiming to do things that's just not going to deliver, and I'm going to pay you a bunch of money? Like, trust is the biggest factor. You gotta earn the trust. Here's how you do it. Two things: consistency and frequency. I don't care what you do. You can do social media, you can do podcasts, you can put up bulletin boards, you can email people, you can go to lunch and learns, you can go to networking, whatever you decide to do, just do it consistently and frequently, because you're teaching your people about you and your culture and your company, and what helps them understand the differences that make you different than the next real estate company out there. There's a 5-stage marketing bridge. So when you're out there marketing and selling and having these conversations with people to drum up business, there's 5 stages for doing this. Number 1 is the unaware state. People are just unaware of you. Well, what's the name of the game in sales, especially in your market? More people you get in front of, the more chances you have at converting somebody to a client or selling a transaction, right? So right now is a time where you need to get in front of more people. You need to take the unaware people that don't know you exist, and even the ones that do know you exist probably truly don't know what all you do and the extent to which you do it, because that's a process in of itself. So you got to make them take the unaware into step 2, which is making them aware of you. Getting in front of them consistently and frequently with your brand, your colors, your logos, your messaging. Got to be on point, got to be consistent, got to be frequent. At that point, it's just a matter of time before there's step 3 happens, which is conviction. Give you a quick example. If you are hosting the Super Bowl party at your house and your big 80-inch screen TV goes out 3 days before the Super Bowl, what are you going to do? You're going to go out and get another TV, I would think, right? But if I asked you at that point, how many manufacturers of TVs can you name? Most people, I play this game with people on a regular basis. Most people get to 5, Sony, Samsung, Philips, RCA, maybe Vizio, and then they start kind of like petering out. Well, there's over 20 different types of TVs out there. Most people can only remember 5. That's the way our brain works. That's that our brain physically just can't retain that more information because it's classified as a certain piece of information that's very low interest. Nobody cares about a TV until they need a TV. But when you need a TV and it's the Super Bowl, what happens? You start doing research, you start looking at ads, you start going to Walmart and Best Buy and now you can tell everybody about everything about TVs. All right. So that's where step 3 of the conviction comes in, is I'm convicted to make a move, right? So yesterday, a client of yours isn't convicted, and then something changes today, and now all of a sudden they're convicted. They're like, yeah, I need to start talking about office space. We just won this big government deal, and we've got to hire 200 employees in the next 60 days. And now all of a sudden, whoever's top of mind, which should be you because you took them from unaware to aware, now you're in the conversation. That leads you to steps 5 and 6, or I'm sorry, 4 and 5, which allows them to take action, which allows them to, close a sale with you. And so think about it maybe in those terms. And I think, that'll help you out.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and it's super powerful what you said about being top of mind, because that in and of itself is what we are trying to achieve. We want to be top of mind. And in the commercial real estate space, I mean, there's not a whole lot of, comparatively, when you compare it to residential real estate, where, I can imagine most people know in the residential agent, they're either in their family or whatever. There's comparatively, there's a lot less of us as far as commercial real estate professionals are concerned. And so, we have a less of a pool to be able to compete with, but, and a lot of people in the marketplace aren't really taking the approach that, you're taking, that, I know I've done on the YouTube and podcasting and that sort of thing side. So even if you are marginally better than the average agent, you will eventually see results from those actions. And in this time where, let's say, you maybe don't have as much activity as you would historically had, and you're kind of in a situation where you're trying to figure out what's the best approach, I would, as a recommendation, I don't know if you would have a similar recommendation, I would double down on getting in front of as many people as possible, like you had mentioned, being consistent at networking events, getting involved in different boards, that you really care about. Because again, you get to see other professionals that are operating in the business landscape locally, and they get to see you showcasing your skill set, maybe going and starting a small YouTube channel or starting a meetup, or, there's different ways that you can approach the process, but, getting frequency, getting top of mind with people, because opportunities will eventually come. And when you become that 1 or 2 or 3 professional that is on everyone's mind, that's when things change or whatever, you're going to be gaining significant market share.
Yeah, I love it. And so if you've got some extra time on your hands where the phone's not ringing as much as it used to be, and you're not you're not out beating the streets, showing properties as much as you used to be, then yeah, convert that time into getting in front of people and building trust. So the question you should ask yourself is, what do I need to be doing the most to make myself and our company the most trustworthy company, doing what we say we're going to do, walking the whole journey with the client, taking him every step of the way through it? Because in your line of work, it's a little bit longer sales cycle than other industries, right? You got to be very proactive. You got to be way out in front of this and be lining up these things to go down the railroad tracks in a very smooth manner, because anything can happen because it's such a long sales cycle. Most of the time, that the longer that is, the greater the risk of something happening in between, meeting somebody at hello and the closing table, right? There's a lot of risk of something happening that makes that deal go south. So you've got to be real proactive. You've got to be ingrained deeper with these clients, understanding their business and their needs, and almost like being a member of their team almost. And then, building that trust. What do I need to be doing to be different than the competitors? And in this day and age, it really isn't hard. It really isn't, because most people don't show up on time. Most people don't follow up and do what they say they're going to do when they're going to do it. Most people are busy and forget things. Like if you just do the basic things, I see this in the trades a lot. One of the biggest issues for trades that helps people stand out. I worked with an electrical company here in the past 6 months, and they skyrocketed their business because the business is out there. The needs of people needing an electrician were great. But all the, I'd say 80% of the electricians didn't respond to them in a timely manner. It took them days to respond and call somebody back. They didn't have a good communication process, right? Once you have a conversation and you agree to meet somebody and come out to their house and talk to them, like the communication process throughout the entire project needs, they need to be informed along the way. That's the consumer demand right now, is that constant communication of how it's going and on track, et cetera. Giving that group of people the customer experience. They want it to be easy, simple. They want to be communicated through the process, and you to reply to them in a timely manner, right? And half the people out there aren't even doing some of that sometimes. So if you think about those kind of basic mechanics and how to build that trust and go deeper and even branch out and think about who sells different things to the same target leaders that we're targeting in commercial real estate, and how can I partner with them and work with them as their go-to commercial person, and they're my go-to whatever, how that can be a game changer for you. So those are just some things I'm trying to pack in there as some extra value for today's conversation. So hopefully that resonates and clicks.
Yes, absolutely. I think it would. And I think that, what the crux of the context is creating systems to optimize your business so that those things don't slip through the cracks, because obviously once you get busy and things are happening, a lot of times you just forget stuff. I mean, I can't tell you, prior to me organizing things a little bit more efficiently, I would, miss things. And it's not, a detriment per se to you as an individual. It's just that you can't keep all these things in your head. You have to get them things systematized and implement different processes within your business that make sure that you have a repeatable experience for all your clientele. So, I'm sure we could talk about this all day long about, implementing CRMs into your business. That's one step in the process that I implemented about 1.5 years ago. That's been game changing. I mean, literally being able to track everything in a single system and then having follow up and everything involved just in one single software system was a huge impact on my business. And I know that, it's probably something similar that people can follow. And, obviously systematizing the way that you produce things, whether that's content or, if you're attending networking events, getting them all on your calendar so you can consistently show up on time and engage with people on a regular basis. That's the sort of thing that I and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's some of the actionable stuff that you are talking about.
Yeah. The small things matter. The small things we take for granted the most, for sure. But the small things are the things that really matter the most. You can get somebody a really good deal on a real estate investment property or something, but if they walk away from like, yeah, man, I got a good deal, but man, it was really difficult to work with this group. It was like pulling teeth to get information. They wouldn't call me back for 3 days, and it was a difficult process for them. Then that's not going to bode you well in the long term. Yeah, you may have closed that deal, but you probably just prevented a few more from rolling in and coming in the easy way versus the hard way of you going out there chasing it and begging for it.
100%. Yeah, going above and beyond, and then, like you said, solidifying those relationships so repeat business comes in going forward. So that's awesome. Great advice. So one thing I'd like to do is we about 12 minutes left in the hour. So I thought I'd open it up to Q&A. I want to give people the opportunity to ask questions if they themselves have any that are kind of burning in their head they want Jason to kind of help them with. So we'll just go ahead and open it up. If you guys don't mind, just to type away in the chat box, I think that'd be really, really helpful. Otherwise, I just don't want a lot of people speaking at once. I guess one question I was going to ask you, Jason, that I thought would be beneficial was, is there a particular topic or discussion point that you felt you wanted to discuss that maybe you weren't able to just get to today?
Well, I mean, based on our previous conversations, I just want to be a resource for you and the folks that you're affiliated with, right? It's a turbulent time. There's a lot of change and dynamics involved. It's easy for people to get down and get in a negative mindset. So I just want to be a resource. I want to give maybe a perspective that you may not have heard before that can add, one piece of value for you and maybe make a difference.
Sure. That's great. So Michael asks, can you provide more detail on the CRM system that would be helpful for a company involved in real estate? So, I mean, I can kind of speak to the one that I've been using. It's called Pipedrive. Now, it's not specific to real estate per se, but it's a sales CRM that you can modify to kind of fit what you need. I like it because it's very simple. I try to avoid systems that are very complex and cumbersome because it just makes it more difficult for me to use it, in which case it's not as sticky, right? So it's one of those things where I'd rather it be very simple, easy to understand, easy to work with, so that I'm not having to dread trying to figure out what's going on with the system. So that's just my piece of advice. Obviously
my question back would be, well, what do you need from the CRM? What kind of an organization are you as far as like size, right? So if you're the size company that's 1 to 15, 20 people that's using the system, then, I think a Pipedrive or maybe even a HubSpot or, something like that would probably suit your needs. Now, if you're a medium, a bigger size company, medium to larger size company, then obviously the big dog out there is Salesforce. But you don't need, a lot of companies go out there and buy Salesforce and spend tons of money and they don't even use but 20% of it. So, buy one that's appropriate for your needs and save yourself some time and effort there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's phenomenal advice, really. So Michael asks, typically, what do people spend on a CRM? I know that depends. I think it really just depends on what you are needing. I would say
there's a lot of options you can, the vendors have tons of options. Some of it, you may or may not need. So I would first get with people in your company if you're looking to implement a CRM and define your needs of what exactly you need and your business processes for which you want this to work in that works efficiently for you and your business model. And then go out and look at 3 different vendors. That's if you're a smaller size company, then look at some smaller size systems like a Pipedrive or a HubSpot or something like that. Typically you can spend anywhere from, depending on the number of users using it, because you're paying by licenses and you're usually paying a subscription fee to use it every month, kind of like you use Microsoft 365. Typically that can be, $500 a month to thousands of dollars a month, depending on the number of users.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And if you're doing individual, oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Wait, what were you going to say about doing individual? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So it depends. Like for me, I know I pay for Pipedrive, I pay like $30 a month or $40 a month, but it's just one account. It's not integrated with a bunch of the huge system. So like if you were going to do something from like a brokerage level, like if I ran a brokerage and I had like 8 agents under me, now that goes into the category of enterprise. And so because it's enterprise software, usually the price points are a little higher and everything else. But if you're just looking for a single, CRM login, which again has limited functionality because it not necessarily limited functionality, but you can't compare it amongst a broader group of individuals, then, something like a, 20 to, $100 a month is kind of what I've been seeing in the marketplace. So.
All right. Yeah, those were my questions.
That's great. All right. Well, it looks like we've answered all the questions that we have currently. So, Jason, I greatly appreciate your time. I found this extremely valuable, and we do record these and push this out on YouTube and podcast format. So, looking forward to seeing the dialogue that's generated as a result of us pushing this out. So, if people wanted to get in touch with you, learn a little bit more about what you do, maybe even start working with you as a coach, or if you have any other resources available that you think would be of value, how would they best get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way to do that, Raphael, is just go to my website, which is soarhirecoaching.com. SOARHIGHERCOACHING.com.
Awesome.
SOARHIRECoaching.com. There you can, reach out to me there and send me a message if you want to, ask me questions. I'm happy to take those. There's also a lot of free resources out there, like, some assessments, planning tools, books, articles, blogs, whatever. There's obviously, I have a podcast. There's a link on the website for the podcast, and you can drill through that and connect to all the different things, the different channels and things that we're operating on there. So that'd be the easiest way to do it, is just go there and take a look at whatever. And if you have a question, then reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and we'll include that in the show notes. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, feel free to go down to the description. You can access the link. And then also, if you guys are watching this on a podcast format, go ahead and go to the description as well. And you'll have access to the website. So
is that correct?
Like Michael just put it in the notes. Yeah.
Michael.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I wanted to make sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
Yep. Well, great. Well, again, Jason, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, we greatly appreciate your insights as it pertains to this discussion. Along with that, if you guys are watching this or listening to this, again, we do this every other week. We invite a variety of different speakers to talk about a variety of different topics pertaining to commercial real estate. Continue to come back, continue to engage, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Have a great day.
See you guys.